What's in a name? You know, if you're a Renaissance artist, the answer is, well, pretty much everything. We tend to think of an artist's signature as just a simple mark of ownership, right? A brand name on a masterpiece. But in the Italian Renaissance, oh, it was so much more than that. It was a secret language, a witty remark, a political statement, and sometimes even a prayer. So let's peel back the layers and dive into the hidden world of Renaissance signatures. All right, let's start with one of the most famous sculptures in the entire world. When a young Michelangelo took on the commission for the Pietà, he basically promised it would be the most beautiful work in marble in Rome today. And, he delivered. It's so breathtakingly perfect that people at the time were reminded of the poet Dante's words, "Dead the dead and the living seemed alive." But look closer. Right here in what you could call a move of unbelievable audacity, Michelangelo did something he never did on any other work ever. He carved his name in big, bold letters right across the sash on the Virgin Mary's chest. His full name and where he was from. Michelangelo Buonarroti, Florentine, was making it. So what is going on here? Is this just the ultimate act of artistic ego, slapping his name on the holiest of figures? Or is there something more subtle, more brilliant at play? This is the puzzle we're going to solve. To really decode this signature, we need to understand the artist's ambition and the traditions he was so cleverly playing with. The key is hiding in the last word of that inscription, faciabat. It means was making. Now, this is a subtle detail, but it is absolutely crucial. See, Michelangelo was quoting ancient masters like Apelles, who used this specific tense as a kind of modesty, a way of saying a work is never truly finished. So in one move, he makes this incredibly bold claim of authorship, while at the same time wrapping it in classical humility. It's a masterful paradox. But to really get how radical Michelangelo's move was, we need to rewind a bit. Because before the Renaissance, signing your name on a work of art meant something completely different. Today, a signature is a brand, right? It's a mark of individual genius. But for centuries, an inscription on a sacred artwork was an act of piety. It was an offering to God, a request for prayers for the artist's soul, or sometimes just a record of who donated the piece. It was all about humility, not pride. As one source puts it, these inscriptions weren't about claiming creative ownership at all. They were supplications for prayer. This came from a monastic tradition where labor was a form of meditation. The artist humbly associated themselves with the work, they didn't assert their genius over it. But then, in the 15th century, something started to shift. Artists, especially in the competitive hotbed of Florence, began to play with these old rules, using their names in clever, witty, and sometimes even subversive ways. Okay, let's look at the painter monk Fray Filippo Lippi. In this gorgeous altarpiece he made for the private chapel of the powerful Medici family, he places us in this dark, mystical forest. But notice the foreground. See that tree stump with the little hatchet plunged into it? That's our clue. And this is just brilliant, the way Lippi layered his message. So on one level, the axe is a symbol of St. John the Baptist. On another, its really difficult perspective is basically a boast, showing off the artist's incredible skill. But the masterstroke is on the handle, Frater Philippus P. It's a visual pun, this witty little intrusion into a sacred space that's impossible to ignore. It's an assertion of a unique, clever identity. And this kind of cleverness was just everywhere in Medici Florence. This was a place where artists weren't just artisans anymore. They were intellectuals, competing for fame and for legacy, and they used their names as signposts of their ambition. In the very same Medici chapel, the artist Benozzo Gozzoli actually painted himself into the procession of the Magi. And just to make sure you don't miss him, he writes Opus Benozzi, the work of Benozzo, right on the brim of his hat. Some people even think this is another pun, urging the viewer to benoti, which means take note. But maybe the most profound example comes from the legendary sculptor Donatello. Now, he rarely signed his work, but on his bronze of Judith and Holofernes, also made for the Medici, he placed his name in a truly remarkable spot, on the cushion where the drunken tyrant Holofernes is about to lose his head. Okay, so the statue itself basically came with instructions, spelled out in an inscription on its base. It frames the story as a very clear moral lesson. Humility triumphs over pride. It was a warning for all of Florence to see. So here's the brilliant part. By putting his name on the cushion, a symbol of the very luxury that brought Holofernes down,
Donatello inserts his own artistry into this moral drama. Is the artist's pride a virtue or a vice? The signature is this sophisticated balancing act, a proud claim of creation presented in a masterpiece about the virtue of modesty. So, when we put all these pieces together, from Michelangelo's bold claim to Donatello's complex riddle, we get a completely new way of looking at art. These aren't just names, they are signposts. They are deliberate instructions from the artist, designed to guide your eye and your mind. They are literally telling you how to look at their work and what they want you to appreciate.
A signature could be a signpost pointing to an artist's humble piety, like it was for centuries. Or it could point to their dazzling technical skill, their sharp intellect, their soaring ambition, or even a specific detail they really wanted you to notice. The signature becomes a part of the whole composition. So the next time you're in a museum, look for the signposts. The real masterpiece might not just be the image itself, but the clever way the artist embedded their own story inside of it, telling you precisely how they wanted to be remembered. The only question is, what will you see now?